Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hey everyone, it's Jory. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. And before we begin, I just want to plant the seed and have you consider the question: have you ever received a message from someone who has passed on? Perhaps an experience where you just felt someone's presence or something unexplainable occurred. Well, today's episode is all about how to tune into the awareness of your angels and how to receive messages and be open to the intuition that you can receive from those who've passed on. And I have to say, it got really personal as Julie shares with me messages that she was getting from both my dad and my great-grandmother. So if you've not been a believer before, this is going to really increase your curiosity and hopefully bring you some insight into how you can become more open to receiving messages. I know this is pretty out there for some. It's pretty woo-woo. And I think it's really fascinating, and this conversation with Julie is a ton of fun. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be well. Hi, and welcome back to Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I am really looking forward to my conversation today with Julie Jancius. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jory. This is so fun.
You are so very welcome. I'm looking forward to connecting with you and having you share with our listeners. Tell us about yourself, what it is you do and what's the magic you bring to the world.
Oh, thank you. Well, I tell people that I grew up Catholic, wanting to be a nun. And if you would have told me that I would be doing this work, 5 years ago, I would have told you you're crazy. But I had this experience where my dad passed away, and I started hearing from him before family reached out to let me know that he had passed.
Wow.
And so I left my corporate gig. I started pursuing energy healing and learning mediumship. And turns out that everybody has a spiritual gift. Mine is connecting with angels, guides, and loved ones on the other side and bringing through their healing positive messages. So I do that work one-on-one with clients. I have a podcast. I teach people how to do this work online and in person. And yeah, it's just so fun to teach other people that, especially right now, that you can connect with folks on the other side, and it isn't difficult, and you can still have a relationship with them when they're gone.
So it's so fascinating, and I'm a believer, and I could share with you some of my stories and let you know what you think about them, but I imagine it's hard for people at times to believe in the ability to not only harness that energy and power, but then to teach it to someone else or learn it. So what were you noticing within yourself that made you go, wait a second, what's going on here?
Well, what happened specifically was, here's what you have to understand. Within each human being, we have two thought systems within us. And most people don't think about it this way. Okay. Most people think like that they just think, right? Yeah. But why is it that we as a society will say, listen to your heart, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition? If there wasn't a secondary thought system, what would happen is we just go think for a while. We don't do that because there are two different thought systems within us. You have the egoic mind, which I believe scientists say brings about 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And you also have the intuition, which is that soft whisper within yourself. And what happened for me was 5 years ago, August of 2015, my dad passed away on August 5th. And I started hearing every single time I would brush my daughter's hair, which I'm sure you remember when they're younger can be a bit of a hassle, right?
Yes.
So every time I'm brushing her hair, I keep hearing that soft whisper within me say, she needs a hairbrush like I used. She needs a hairbrush like I used. And it repeated over and over and over again. I know you have mental health background training. I don't. but I just kept thinking, oh my God, like I am going crazy. I keep hearing this thought within me. And the way the thought was set up, I go, that's not me. She needs a hairbrush like I used. And I kept thinking, who the hell is I? Because this is the only type of hairbrush I'd ever used. So fast forward a whole month. My dad had been on his third wife. She didn't call to let us know. His second wife spent a month trying to research and find my sister and I because our maiden names had changed.
Oh, yeah.
And so she tracked us down. And when we found out, the first thing that happened for me was I immediately had this vision out of my third eye of my dad brushing my hair as a little girl before school. And he used a wooden brush with these boars-like bristles that I had not thought about in over 25 years.
Wow.
So I immediately knew, and I said to the coworker in front of me, my dad's been talking to me. And that started me on this journey of figuring out how to communicate with the other side and how it all works.
So how did you delve into that? Like, what was it that you then did to say, I need to learn more about this, because what can I harness here?
I don't think it was an intention to use it for all people. I just thought, okay, my dad is trying to communicate to me. I need to understand how to get the messages. So I didn't have the intention of doing this work as a living at first, but have you ever heard the phrase, spirit breaks you to make you?
No, but I like it.
Yes. So sometimes spirit breaks us down in our life in order to have us rebuild our life in a way that is more aligned with our authentic soul purpose.
You're speaking my language now, lady.
Yay.
So anything that gets us into that, and this is what I love. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is what I love about talking to different people on the show, because there's this room, right? And in this room is the authentic self and this awareness and this conscious living. And we all have different doors to get into that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
so this is 100%. Just one other door to get into this room of being in alignment and being authentic and listening to your intuition, whatever that means for you.
Yeah.
But it seems like once you have that awareness that it's possible to do so, then you're like, I got to continue this. How do I maintain that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to share that I just had this visual of, it's just another entree into that room.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I teach a lot now. I created my own format because what I noticed is that there's so many different types of energy healing, right? And there's so many different classes people could take. But as I was teaching people energy healing, and what happened for me is that when you learn energy healing, your natural spiritual gifts start to come out. So if you see color, you start to develop that unique spiritual gift. If you have the gift of connecting with angels or loved ones on the other side, that starts to come out. If you are intuitive, or if you are just a hands-on healer, because some people have the ability, like a medical medium, to look inside the physical body and know what's going on. So what I tell students is that what my spirit team has shown me and what my angels have shown me is that if there are 7.5 billion people in this world, and there are the traditional routes of healing, no, there's not enough routes of healing to get everybody to a place of full authentic healing. We need more pathways, more highways. And so I developed a program that allows each person to develop their own unique highway. And that way they're doing their work, developing their own unique gifts to help more people.
So what are some of those different highways people can strengthen?
So I think it's just really what calls to you. When I work with my clients, one of the biggest things that people say is, but I don't know where to start, or I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know what my passions are. And I say, no, your angels and your spirit team say that's not possible, because what you love and what you're supposed to be doing is directly connected to your soul through light energy. So you can't not know it. The only thing that's possible is that you're so busy in your day to day that you're not allowing.
It's preventing us from seeing what's there.
Yes. So it can't not be tied to you. It can't not be connected to you. You are always connected to it. It's only if you feel like you're not hearing it, you're not allowing enough silence, stillness, quiet time in your life to feel into it.
Yeah, I fully agree. And that really resonates with what my journey has been.
Yeah.
Of, me waking up one day in my early 30s of realizing, wait, I don't know who I am really. And I had been living by the thoughts in my head as my truth, and living by safety and expectation and shoulds. And I realized I was totally disconnected from that heart-centered space, from that intuition, from my core, which I defined as me, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew my head, but I didn't feel like I was in alignment there.
Right.
And I had to get still.
Yeah.
And I had to create that space. And that's where, mindfulness really found me. And, to develop the ability to be still, but then the courage to listen.
Yeah.
Because we can be still and then still not pay attention.
100%. And you know what? You had asked me a question earlier about how I actually bridge this into actually doing this work. Yeah. And that's what happened for me. So my intent was never to do this work as a living. At the beginning, I was working in fundraising for colleges and universities, had finally worked my way up to the title, the salary, had a team working for me. And yet I wasn't happy. Yeah. I had always gotten the gold star. I had always been a perfectionist in everything that I did. And the boss that I was working for at the time, nothing was ever good enough. So I said, well, I'm going to work harder and I'm going to do more. And I ended up working pretty much 24/7 around the clock for her for months before this little voice started to come in my head, which said, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this. And it was 3 weeks, Jory, from that little voice being inside my head of, I don't want to do this, to know really like, I don't want to be here anymore. How would I do it? How would I make my exit from this world? Yeah. And I had the confidence and the strength to tell somebody about that, and ended up going into the hospital and doing an inpatient stay. And really at the time had just continued to blame my boss, right? And not take ownership myself that I had been working in a place where I loved the work, but I didn't love the people. Yeah. And instead of leaving like I knew I should in my heart, I was trying to make it work. Yeah. And I remember this woman coming in, a counselor, to my office, and I would be like, okay, well, you don't understand. Like, I have to leave and I have to get back to work. It was a breakdown of the self-identity that I had created. And it took a long time to break down that self-identity of, this is who I am. Yes. I am a person with this title, with this salary, with this team that I'm responsible for. This is the work that I am proud of doing. And once I stripped all of those shoulds away, I got to this very solid place of, wow, I don't want to be doing any of this.
Yeah. But again, it takes a lot of courage to say, this has been my identity. And if I listen to that intuition, not only do I have to change the tangible of what's my next career going to look like, or the next aspects of my career, but now even the bigger question of, well, what's my identity without this? Because I always ask people the question, how is it serving you to stay stuck? And people always say, it's not serving me. I hate it. I hate, whatever's coming up for them, whether it's stress or anxiety or toxic relationship or unfulfilling career or you name it.
Yeah.
And yet at the root of it, one of the things that keeps people stuck is an identity. They know how to do it. They know who they are. So if you're willing to let that old identity go, then the best part is you got to create it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and isn't that the most beautiful part? Because
It's
then
huge.
you realize that you are a creator in your own life and that you do get to look within yourself and say, what is it that I want to build?
Yeah.
And what I teach my clients now is that there is manifestation, but there's also co-creation.
Yes.
And co-creation is saying, okay, I believe in a higher power. And I tell my clients, you can call it God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's truly all that is.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if, I'm just going to call it God because that's what I use. God can see the whole Macy's Day Parade, right? From above, start to finish. But if we were on the ground in our own lives, we can only see float by float.
Yeah.
And what I see co-creation as is giving my will over to God and saying, God, you can see the whole parade. So tell me what it is that you want for me, or why is my soul here? What is my higher self wanting for this soul journey in this lifetime?
Yeah.
Allow me to be a tool that you can use to help other people.
And so that ability to kind of tie it back into the beginning part of your story of hearing this message from your dad.
Yes.
That's where we get to connect with energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And there's so much energy, and it's so wild the way that they work, Jory, on the other side. We're in the midst of coronavirus right now, and I don't know why, but I use like reading People magazine or like online as a way to just kind of jump from task to task or give myself a little break in the middle. Well, I was reading a story online about a couple, and one of the people in this couple had passed away, one of the partners. And I felt so much energy coming through as I was reading this article. And I think that there are people who do this work who would just reach out, but I don't believe in doing that because I feel like it's tacky. I feel like it's just wrong. And I said to this person as I was feeling their energy from the other side, if you want me to connect with your partner, ask him to call, ask him to reach out. And I ended up getting an email from him and then having a conversation this weekend and bringing through messages. And that has been happening over and over and over again as we go through this coronavirus pandemic. There's so much energy, and they are trying to communicate with us. They want us to know that it's not just with me. It's not just with Teresa Caputo. It's not just with John Edwards. Every single person has the ability to be able to be in tune with their people on the other side. It's just learning how to do that.
Yeah. And that's where, for even people who are listening, being like, yeah, right, that sounds hokey and I don't believe that. And I get that. And I also know that people have synchronicities and people have unexplainable coincidences. And what do they do with that? Right. It's simply, I don't know. For me, it comes down to, it feels good to believe in something bigger than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm someone who likely would have not always believed, but I've had too many unexplainable coincidences. And, it's amazing because once I opened myself up to receiving them, and it was at the time in my life where I was like, I don't know what my next path looks like. I don't know, I ended up getting divorced after being with my high school sweetheart since I was 13. And it was like I just opened myself up, and literally every day I do a heart opening. So it's like, okay, universe. So I call it the universe. I don't talk to God. I talk to the universe, right? We all use our own words.
Yes.
So, okay, universe, I'm open and I'm here to receive. And I want to receive whatever is going to help me put me on the right path.
Right.
Whether that's people, experiences, or opportunities. And when I first opened up my energy, oh my gosh, Julie, so much shifted. And there was a period of time where I could not turn the signs off.
Mm-hmm.
And they came in the form of a light that went on by itself. And that came, and then it happened with the number 33, which I saw for about 9 months consistently, multiple times a day. And I actually was 33 when I started seeing it. So it was really powerful, but it was about 9 months until I understood what it was from a numerology standpoint, which is the higher level consciousness. It's initiation, and it's the completion of one phase and initiation into another. And
as you're talking about this, it's 244.
Yeah, there's more powerful numbers, right? You know, and it's been amazing to me. So I've been someone who is like, okay, you don't have to believe, but not believing doesn't make necessarily it stop.
Right. Right.
So for me, once I opened up myself to the energy of the universe for, okay, you guys, I need a sign, like help me. And then it was interesting because I would over attach the meaning so much to the light going on, or the number 33, or the song that was significant that came on, or whatever the awareness was. And then I had to realize, wait a second, if I over attach every little meaning, I'm getting caught up in my head again.
Right.
So for me, it was a practice of the universe asking me every time I got the synchronicity, every time I got the awareness, it was to me the universe saying, okay, Jory, are you being aware right now? Are you paying attention? Because if not, you're going to slip back into that old habit of autopilot, of getting back up in my head and outside of my body.
Yes.
So like that's how I went through that journey. And it was a huge, significant turning point in my life.
Yeah. Well, and I completely see what you're saying. I remember having a conversation because the exact same thing would happen with me. I'd see the numbers 11 at the beginning, and sometimes I counted it, and it would be like 40 times in one day on receipts, on this, on that. And
License
I remember
plates were a big one for me.
Yes. And I remember pointing out a license plate to my husband in the car and being like, look, there it is again. And my husband's like, this is just synchronicities. You're making this up in your head. And as we pulled into the gas station, he's filling up the tank, and he knocks on this window of the car, and he looks at the number that it stopped on when he was filling up the tank. And it was like 11.11111111. And he was like, okay, you're right. Like the universe almost had to work with him a little bit to accept it, because he's a teacher in the community, and it isn't typical, right, to do this work. And we live in one of the most religious communities in the United States.
Oh, wow.
The Bible Belt of the U.S. So he really had to see it, and they showed it to him as well, which was amazing.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. My ex-husband's a civil engineer, so like very black and white, very like, not really open to a lot of the more woo-woo stuff that was happening to me at the time. And when I kept seeing the number 33, he would hear me say it, and he saw the light go on, so he knew that was not me. Like he really that started to open him up. But there was one day that I was driving down the street, and in this moment of awareness, I asked myself, like, what am I going to do with my life? And I felt this, and to me, like when I've done research about this afterwards, it's like those angels on your shoulder are the ones who are like, look here, right? And have you look up to see what you're supposed to see. So as I was driving down the street, I was asking myself this question: what am I going to do with my life? I look up, I'm going down the street, probably 40 miles an hour. The car next to me, the license plate started with the number 6, which at the time in California, many years ago, all cars started with 6. The next 3 letters was my initials, JTR, and then it said 033. So it was my name and my number. And I had the awareness to look up as we were driving. And I had the wherewithal, not the safest thing, but I did it, took a picture. And this was in 2011. And let me tell you, Julie, in almost all the years since, I've seen this same car probably at least a dozen to 15 times.
Wow.
I can't believe the car's still around, honestly. Not the other day, maybe a month and a half ago, I pulled into the Safeway parking lot next to the car. And I took a picture and, texted it to my daughters because it's like, but I always see this car at a significant moment of awareness where I'm needing some confirmation of something. Yeah. And it always brings me such warmth of like, okay, there it is. Yeah. And the first time I saw it, that was the time that my ex-husband was like, all right, you're not making this shit up. He's like, even I can't deny that that's unusual, because what is the mathematical odds of that license plate even existing in the state of California? Like, how many millions of cars are there? And then, there was only 6 that could have had the JTR 033 because it had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in front of it. The 1, 2, 3s were way too old. So it's like the mathematical odds are so astronomically small. And I will see this car on the freeway going 80 miles an hour. And it's always like, okay, am I awake? Am I aware? Am I paying attention to what's happening around me?
Yeah. So go back to what you just said, though, too, because what the angels are always doing is, for those who can't see us physically, Jory, you kind of pushed your chin to the side, and they do that. They kind of move your head one way or the other to get your attention to look. And what the angels have told me is, it's twofold. So one, acknowledge the presence, right? Hello, spirit team. Your spirit team is made up of angels, guides, and loved ones on the other side. Say, I feel your presence with me. Thank you for being with me. Also, go back into your mind and say, what was I just thinking about? Because your angels are trying to tell you, or your loved ones on the other side, they're with you on that. Yeah. They're helping you with that you're not alone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how have you continued to get messages from your dad after that hairbrush, which seems really significant?
Yes. Well, when you have somebody who you really love on the other side, there's something that happens. You can be going through your day and just randomly doing different things, and out of nowhere, a thought or a memory comes through of them, and you're like, oh, wow, I really do miss that person. This other thing happens where you can just wake up one morning and have this kind of heart hurt of just like, oh, I really need to just hug them, or I wish I could call them, or just, I need them, right?
Yeah.
Those are energies of us either wanting to connect with them or them wanting to connect with us. If you imagine, is your dad on the other side?
Yes.
Okay, because he's like so super next to you.
I was just thinking, as you said that, I was just thinking about the 2 stories that I was going to share with you about my dad.
Oh, okay. Because he's like, tell her that this happens with us all the time. So, and who's the grandmother on the other side that you were really close with?
No grandmother that I was really close with, but all my grandmothers have passed.
Okay, because you do have grandmother energy that's on the other side, that's on your spirit team. She kind of
I know which one that is. That's my mom's grandmother, because she's come up for me before.
Okay, because she's very persistent. She's very direct, and she's like at the forefront with your dad on your spirit team. So what your dad was saying is tell you that if there was a doorway between you and him, that he can knock on your door and you can knock on his door. Mm-hmm. When your heart hurts in the morning and you need to connect with him, that's you needing to knock on his door. Mm-hmm. When you get the memory that just comes out of nowhere or the sign from him, that's him knocking on your door, needing to spend time with you. Mm-hmm. So my dad and I have these different symbols. And when I feel that heart hurt, I go and I watch the movie Interstellar. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. Some people hate it. I absolutely adore it. It's actually about a dad communicating to his daughter from outer space, kind of the other side. Yeah. But and I use the same movie, But when he needs to connect with me, I go to that same movie too. I just know now which is which, him needing to connect with me or me needing to connect with him. And it was funny because I didn't really know his third wife very well. And I kept feeling like, did he know? There's so much for that movie Interstellar that I get every single time that has helped me with my spiritual awakening. And I was praying and I was like, God, let me know if my dad actually saw that movie. And I was like, I really don't want to make this phone call to his wife. Is there another way? And then like I heard from my angels, call your brothers, because I have 2 half brothers. So I called them and I was like, hey, you probably don't know this information, but did Dad ever watch this movie? And they go, Julie, he loved it. It was one of his favorite movies. Yes. So that always makes me feel good.
Yeah. You get the confirmation. One of the things that I was going to share with you about my dad was a little over a year ago, my fiance and I went to New Orleans and we went ghost hunting. And I was terrified. And this wasn't just like taking a tour in the French Quarter. This was like going to this abandoned old, it used to be an infant asylum in the 1860s. And the tour was like at 10 p.m. until midnight. And I was like, this is not up my alley. This is totally out of my comfort zone, but I'll be open and I'll go with it. Long story short, a lot of what happened there was interesting, but not hugely significant until the very end, where we were given an opportunity to go into a room, just the 2 of us, not with the other people in the group. And there was some monitors and equipment to talk to the other side. And one of them was, I forget what it's called, a spirit box, where it sounds like you're just changing the station on a radio, and it sounds really staticky. And at certain points, words come through, and the words that come through are supposed to be the angels or the spirits that you're connecting with. And then the other one was an EMF monitor, which was electromagnetic frequency that flashes a red light when there's energy in the room. So we had seen enough at this point in the evening where now I was no longer afraid. I was really curious. And there was enough to say, okay, something's happening, but now I want more. So we go into this room. It's about midnight. It's totally dark in this big abandoned old building. And I just said, I want to talk to my dad. I figured, and my dad committed suicide when I was 10. And I was never very close with him because my parents divorced when I was 3. So I'm in this room, the monitors, nothing is happening. The spirit box is just pure static. The EMF box is not doing anything. And I say to the room, I want to talk to my dad. And I said, Bert, if you're here, please let us know that you're here. And on the spirit box, the word Bert came through as clear as could be. It was the clearest word we had heard in over 2 hours. And I felt calm and I felt comforted. I didn't feel anxious or scared or like this is creepy. It was actually a very calming feeling. And then I said, Dad, we forgive you. Mm. And the EMF monitor started blinking red. Wow. And even my fiance, who clearly never met him and doesn't really, even have much connection to that piece of my life, but even he said, Bert, we forgive you. We love you. And the EMF monitor started going off like crazy. Mm-hmm. And I had such this sense of peace. And, we came out of the room and everyone else was like, yep, no one was there. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I talked to my dad. And I felt it, it was undeniable, the word coming through.
Mm-hmm. And that's what happens. I mean, they are giving us undeniable signs. You felt his presence, though, very significantly. I mean, we feel their presence from time to time. And then there's times when we just know that they're right next to us. But you felt that at your first wedding, true? The day of your first wedding, because he's showing me him there and making you feel his presence.
Yeah. Yeah. How could I not have, right? I mean, my mom was the one who walked me down the aisle.
Yeah. He takes responsibility for helping you to connect with both of your partners. Because you had both of your girls with your ex, correct?
Yeah.
Which was what was meant to be. They were meant to come through to you. He's kind of on the other side, opening up your life plan over there.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have to understand is that, I mean, think back over the last 100 years and how we have increased and increased and increased in spiritual awakening as a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And there are some people who are energy holders. There are different souls who come here for different reasons.
Yeah.
His soul came here for a purpose, but he says that your soul wouldn't have gotten the chance to be who you were supposed to be and the healer that you were supposed to be without the journey that he was on in his life. So he, even though he is sorry for the pain and he is sorry for the hurt that it caused, there are some instances of free will where things happen here that weren't in the life plan on the other side.
Sure.
But what he's showing me is that everything that did occur happened within the life plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to show you, and for those who are just listening, you'll have to take my word for it, but I've been recording and I have my timer going so I can take notes as we record. And right now, my clock is at 34. But as you said about my journey and my life plan, I turned my phone back on, and I kid you not, Julie, it was at 33:33.
Ah.
And that was like a minute ago when you said that, which is why I had to show the phone now to know, like, it's close enough in the vicinity that you could believe that a minute ago, as you finished your sentence, where it was at when I turned my phone back on.
Yeah. And which is your daughter that's going to college? Is it next year?
She's my older one. She's 16 and a half.
Okay.
And she's a sophomore right now.
Okay. She's a sophomore because
she was supposed to be going abroad next year.
Okay. He loves both your girls so extremely much. He's talking about your older daughter though, and how she puts so much pressure on herself to be, it's almost as if she's scared of making a wrong decision, that it'll take her down the wrong path, right? And what he needs her to know is that as we make decisions from our own free will, they can always use it as a web to bring us back. You know, you can't really make a wrong decision. They can always use whatever decision that you make to bring you where you're supposed to be. So his message, he really comes through very powerfully. I asked him to show me this twice if he wanted me to say it. Just have fun. Like he just wants her to have more fun and then just enjoy, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. It really, it feels heartwarming to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how does it ever feel, because I know sometimes with my own energy, and I've been told before, I have very powerful energy, and I manifest and I make things happen, and my light shines really bright. And I've been told this for my whole life, but it can also be exhausting at times. So how do you, as being able to kind of connect and be open to energy, do you ever feel drained from it?
You know what? I've heard big mediums say that if you're doing it right, you shouldn't be exhausted. I think the exhaustion more comes from your egoic mind and the weight of the responsibility, because there is so much responsibility there. Like, and what I tell my students all the time is that you're not allowed to push. You can't push information through. All I can tell you is what I see, feel, hear, or get the knowingness of. But then it's kind of like a train. Once you start it, like I can't stop it. Like there's messages now coming through for your younger daughter. And, what I believe is that you tap into the highest vibration that is, which is God energy, so that it isn't you bringing it through. You're connected to universe, source, God energy. So you're just the channel.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, is there a limit to it? Yeah. If I go to a party, like I read 16 people in one night, that was way too much. I can probably do about 4 hours in a row before I get pretty exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, since you mentioned it, what's the messages for my younger daughter?
So you're a healer, and I feel like your daughter, both of your daughters are healers in ways. Your younger daughter is a healer who's here to use that healing power. Because as I was talking about your older daughter, and then we kind of moved on with conversation, your dad goes, she's going to be so upset if you bring through messages for her sister and not for her. Yeah. And, they're both on the right path, right? It's just trust. Yeah. Trust that intuition, because you're so intuitive. Mm-hmm. Your kids are so intuitive. Trust. And your younger daughter, she is a healer like you are, which means that you're going to have to allow her to make her own choices and her own mistakes, because it is us going through life and doing it ourselves. Yeah. That really allows us to see the path to healing. Yeah. And she's going to be beautiful at it. Yeah. She's going to start. Yeah. Yeah. And she's going to start so much further because she chose you as a mom and you're doing your work. So where you stop, she gets to start and springboard from.
I believe it. That feels really spot on for both of them in so many ways. Julie, it's so fun connecting with you.
Oh, you too, Jory.
I absolutely love this. So how can people find you? And I guess before we go there, let me just ask you one last thing. For someone who's listening right now, for something really tangible that they can take away, if they're like, Julie, this is amazing, I want to tap into this. Can you give just one really tangible tool that they can start to just practice? What would be that real tangible takeaway for something you might teach your clients that you work with?
Yeah. So there's a way of tuning your energy and opening up your crown chakra with just a very short 2 to 3 minute meditation. The third episode in my podcast, Angels and Awakening, is that meditation that tunes your energy, helps you open up your crown chakra. So I would kind of send them over to episode number 3 of the podcast and have them listen to that. The other thing that Spirit's talking about, and I don't have a video on this yet, but you can look it up on YouTube, is automatic writing. So if somebody is more into meditation, who knows how to get into a higher vibration, the next step is really sitting down and making some space for automatic writing in your life.
So automatic writing mean just like free association journaling, like not overthinking it? Is that what that means?
So the way that I see it is your imagination is an energy tool. The worst thing that we could have done is tell people that the imagination is something make-believe and not real. Right. That couldn't be farther from the truth. The imagination is your creative power. It's also an energy tool that you can use that connects with the third eye to bring energy to you. So simply closing your eyes after you get into a high vibration through a very short meditation and seeing your dad or your loved one right in front of you as you remember them from pictures because you were so young, or if you do remember them being physically here, seeing what they looked like, imagining their smell, their clothes, what it would be like to give them that big hug or greet them. Yeah. What that does is imagining those details is energy that goes out and pulls their energy to you. And then you sit down with them and you say, hey, do you have some time to talk? Right? And you just sit down and you talk with them. They don't have the need to communicate with words through their mouth on the other side because everything is telepathic over there. Right. So you might not see their mouth move, but they're communicating information to you. And what you'll do is sit down with a pen and a paper, and maybe you write a question to your dad, Jory, like, what is it like on the other side? Or who are you with on the other side? I had people ask me, is there food on the other side? ask anything that you want about over there or about here, and whatever they're able to give you, they will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to normally come through like their voice. You're going to hear
Right.
it like your own internal intuition, your heart voice, but you just take dictation and you write down word for word what you hear, and then you go back and read it and process it.
And interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So now, how can people find you? What's the best way for people to connect?
Yes. So I'm at theangelmedium.com. That's a new website that we're just launching, theangelmedium.com. I've also got the podcast, Angels and Awakening. And we're over on Facebook too, and Instagram at Angel Podcast.
Wonderful. Well, Julie, I'm sure people are going to definitely be intrigued to learn more because, you know, I also find for me, like I was mentioning earlier, once I opened myself up to receiving energy, it definitely helped me make choices that I know for sure put me on the right path that I might have otherwise, my logic or my expectations would have not necessarily allowed me to tap into. Right. And I agree, there's no wrong choice. Because whatever it was, it's made in the moment.
No, yeah, exactly. But it feels so good to make those choices from that alignment and from that place of just high vibration and connection.
Well, and sometimes I'm not even sure why I made it, and I don't need to be sure why.
Yes.
But I know it was the right thing.
That's so beautiful, Jory.
Yeah. Well, that's been my journey almost the past 10 years is kind of what you were saying, like I never would have imagined I'd be where I was. But it took a lot of trust and it took a lot of faith in my own intuition, which it took a while to even uncover was even down there.
Yes. Yes. Oh, well, I'm so glad that you did that work because now you are such a healer leading other people on that journey as well. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom with us today. And we will have also those links in the show notes so anyone who's listening can tune in. So Julie, be well, stay healthy, and it's been great connecting with you.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat, visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.